Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Gatto.
And I'm Olivia Kaplan.
And this is our first podcast episode.
Woo!
We've been talking about doing this for months, but today is like the first time we're actually sitting down and recording.
Yeah, and we're so excited because our organization, Words Carry Weight, targets spreading kindness and empathy to the younger generation. So we, as high schoolers, thought it would be a great idea to create a podcast that spreads these values to high schoolers, basically.
And I think my main goal for this podcast is to inspire self-help and growth. We want to grow as people, as well as encourage our peers in high school to do so as well.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about uncomfortable topics. we're gonna dive into self-love, insecurity, gossiping, different topics. But
yeah.
Today we want to focus on something that's very near and dear to our heart.
Yeah, which is special needs or neurodiverse people and the bullying that accompanies that, especially in a middle school, high school setting. As someone who has a family member with special needs, it's a fear of mine that he's going to go out into the world one day. You know, he's young right now, but go out in the world and experience people who are extremely unkind to something that they just don't understand. The fact that there are people with just like learning disabilities. My cousin, he can't even speak. He's nonverbal. And I feel like because it's something that people don't understand, they choose like violence verbally and negative words, and that's not okay.
Yeah, I think what you're saying about not understanding is majority of us high schoolers feel so comfortable throwing out slurs.
Oh my God.
And using
yeah.
unkind language. If someone in class says something not as intelligent, someone will call them a slur pertaining to neurodiverse individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think majority of that comes from ignorance.
Absolutely. Or maybe they don't understand like the history behind the negative effect that one of those words has had.
Yeah.
You know, like there's been recently, and with the BLM movement, there's been an outreach against slurs against African American individuals or different races and how that's wrong. And then I think for us it's important to also touch on neurodiverse children, how that's still wrong.
It's so normalized.
Right?
In almost every class that I go to, I hear slurs.
Right.
And I can speak from experience because I don't have a special needs family member. No one close to me has special needs. So I grew up ignorant. Olivia didn't, so she knows the weight that those words carry. But I didn't. I grew up not knowing, and thereby it didn't matter to me.
Right.
And I went through all of middle school kind of thinking it wasn't a big deal, and that people who said it was a big deal were kind of like sticklers and, you know, just trying to be like...
That's actually what I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of people, and there's a valid point that comes from people saying like,
don't give it power.
Don't give it power, because if you're sensitive about it, then you're like almost like you have the power to choose if it makes you upset or not. But what I hear constantly is people associating different slurs with ignorance. For example, like if someone says something that they deem to be dumb, they'll call them a special needs slur. So then you're giving that word a new definition when you do that. You're giving it an association. And then when you apply that definition to it and then call someone with special needs that, then you're basically associating being special needs with being ignorant and being dumb. And I can tell you 100% these kids are not dumb.
Yeah.
They are smart.
They're gifted.
They're so smart. They just have learning and cognitive disabilities.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little girl with autism, right? She's not good at emotional intelligence. She has trouble...
which is very common.
Yeah. She has trouble connecting phrases, connecting words, but she can count to 100 at 2 years old.
Oh my
That's
God,
really?
no,
like these kids are not like,
they're smart.
They're smart. And
they're smart.
So when someone says something stupid, or when someone acts not so smart and you call them a special needs slur, you're associating that with special needs individuals. And
right. And especially with everything that they have going on, like, can you only imagine, for example, my cousin not being able to talk?
Gosh.
Can you imagine not being able to talk? Everything that you're brought into this world where social dynamics,
define your self-worth.
Right. And not only that, none of it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the fact that people smile, they don't understand that means, like, happiness.
Yeah.
It's just all these things that make no sense to them. And then after all of that, you're going to go and verbally put them down.
Yeah.
And even, I've never personally experienced this with any person I've known, but physically put them down as well, which we've seen in the news, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I hope our viewers have
That's a good
seen.
point. I think if you're listening to this podcast, hopefully you're mature enough that you aren't the kind of person who physically puts someone down. But the point is that if you're doing it verbally, I think it's very important to make that first step, because if you would defend someone physically who's being bullied because they're neurodiverse, you should watch the language that you use, because you might be thinking, why are they focusing on such a small thing? Like, that's not the big issue. Because this is something we can change. This is something we can influence. Unfortunately, we can't really tell people who are that evil, who are willing to put them down physically and abuse or hurt them or bully them. I don't know how much influence we could have over that. But
maybe there is someone here listening that has done that. And if you have, all you gotta do is stop, stop, just stop.
I think a wonderful first step is adjusting your vocabulary, because like I was saying earlier, it wasn't until 8th grade I had, oh my gosh, the world's most amazing teacher. I'll shout her out, Miss Doucette, Miss Karen Doucette. And she has a son, Scotty, with autism. And I think that was when I actually understood the weight that word has, and how it's not something you can just throw around, because anyone around you can hear that. And why are you associating it with negative connotations?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. They already have it so hard. Why
and
are
then,
you...
also, first of all, neurodiverse children, just the word diverse in general, equates to different. And so these kids are different. They're different from neurotypical people, kids or adults, sorry. But they are different from neurotypical people, and they are 100% treated that way. I see it all the time, even not just from my little cousin, but in school, how we have, I'm sure if you guys are high school students listening, that you have a group of kids at school. We even have a building, the ESC building, but there's a class, and the looks that they get, maybe even especially if they're physically disabled, because that's more apparent, but the looks that they're given, the different attitudes that they're given, the way that people kind of avoid them because it almost scares them. And I know that's from ignorance because they don't understand it, but they're already treated so differently to then go ahead and use words that treat them as ignorant, which they're not. My little cousin, his name is Jonah, he can trick you. That kid knows manipulation. He knows how to get what he wants. Those kids are smart. They're so smart.
Yeah. And adults too that we're talking about, because one of Olivia's biggest fears is Jonah being sent off into this world, and
which obviously will never leave him to fend for himself, but
just adults who also experience, because what people don't understand is they can't control that. Why are you picking on someone with things that they literally cannot control?
And then what does it say about you?
Yeah, it's a reflection of your character. And if you want to take a step to be a better person, you can start with your vocabulary, because the way you speak reflects who you are as an individual. Do you want to be a beacon of light and love and kindness and empathy, or do you want to fit in and be cool and use slurs? If your friend says something stupid and you want to make someone laugh, you shouldn't even be putting people down.
that if you have friends that if you put someone down and they laugh,
Yeah.
maybe it's time to rethink that.
Yeah, and let alone using that word to do it.
Yeah.
Or any word.
But like saying those words, they seem, even if it's funny to you and it's funny to your friends, in that moment it seems so funny. But at the end of the day, throughout your life, do you want to remember yourself as that type of person?
Yeah.
And if you are that type of person, it is always okay to change it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it being ingrained in your vocabulary, so make the effort to remove it.
Because if you change yourself, I believe in looking at who you are in the present. If that's who you were, if that's the type of words that you use, if that's the type of thought process you had about neurodiverse people, or special needs, or autistic, or physically disabled, or whatever it is, if that is who you were, just change it. Because you might think, well, like, you know what I mean? That's already me. That's already what I've done. I've already said bad things. No, just change it now. Make that change. And for the rest of your life, be a person who does not use words like that.
Yeah.
And who instead, like Rachel said, is a beacon of light and a beacon of kindness and a beacon of empathy. And that's who you can remember yourself as. Because at the end of the day, after you've lived your life and you're 70 years old, it's not going to matter like, oh, how much did I make my friends laugh? It's going to matter, who was I?
Was I a loving person? And changing your vocabulary and the way that you speak about them behind their back, because I think that's what's the most important. It's so easy.
That's a whole other... Yeah. That's our next podcast topic, actually, is gossiping.
We talk about being kind to their face, which I think in retrospect for a lot of people is easy. But when you interact with someone who's special needs and you feel the need to kind of go run to a friend and tell them about this hilarious encounter that you had or this annoying encounter, don't do that. Be a beacon of love, of support. And it's not just the R slur. That's not the only word. We were talking about special ed shortened, that people like to put it into one quick word and like use it negatively. I thought senior year that wouldn't
Rachel
exist.
just heard 2 people in the same class period say it the other day.
Yeah, and talk negatively. And talk be like, I can't believe I have this annoying blank kid in my class.
Because there is a valid point. Like, it depends on the meaning you give it, but they were giving it that meaning.
Yeah, they gave
it's not about the slur. It's about the meaning that they're providing the word.
Exactly. So, if you were blessed enough to be born with higher cognitive ability, you have the ability to retrain your brain and acknowledge what you're doing is not up. Is not
and
up
you know,
to par.
I've actually heard people use the excuse like, oh, they'll never know. They don't get what I'm saying. They'll never know.
That's not true, first
of all, that's not true, because they are smart. So let's break that stigma, because they're smart. They know what you're saying. You just can't tell they know what you're saying, because expressing emotions is not something that comes naturally to special needs children. And second of all, who cares? Even if it's true that they would never know, you did that. Yeah. Like we said, that's a reflection on you as a human being. That's something that you did. And that you're... these decisions that you make, the way that you talk about people, that defines you as a human being.
Yeah. I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, and we're going to start to wrap up. But I was talking to a friend the other day, and they use the R slur pretty frequently, and every time they do, I say, hey, I don't think you should say that. And I had a conversation with them yesterday a little more in depth of like, I don't think you should, because they're religious. So I brought up, do you think God would be proud of you? And they said, God knows I'm joking. Which I don't think, if you want to joke, if you want to be funny, you can use other words. That's not funny.
That's not the way to be funny.
It's not the way to be funny. And it's not... People also, when you say something dumb, they'll kind of flap their hands. Have you ever seen that?
What do you mean?
I've seen it a lot. Of if someone says something stupid, a friend will like flap their hands. And you've never seen that?
For the viewers that don't know, that's a symptom of ASD. Especially seeing younger children where they jump and flap their hands.
I've seen that so many times where someone will make like an unusual noise and flap their hands. I've seen it at school like 3 times already.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, to kind of imply you're being stupid like a special needs person. Do that in front of a special needs parent.
I was just thinking that.
And you know what? Like, That's so
I would
disrespectful.
cry if I saw someone do that. That's
no,
horrible.
that's terrible. That's like the number, like, compared to even like using a word, that's terrible. And it's so normalized. It's not funny. It's not funny.
No.
And it's not until you have a special needs loved one that you realize, I have to protect this person.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't imagine. And you know what's funny too? My little cousin, when he does that, I think it's the cutest thing in the world.
Yeah,
so
and
I hate
people
that
are
they're
using
using it
it
as
as, like, an
negative.
insult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's adorable.
I think, let's say our bottom lines. You can go first.
All right. Summary of the podcast today. If you made it this far,
thank you. We're proud of you.
congratulations.
Even if you made it this far and you actively use that word, we're proud of you, because that means that you care.
That is incredible growth.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that. So summary is that although there is a point which is valid to not give those words meaning, is that these kids already have enough going on, and maybe they cognitively cannot grasp the concept of don't give it meaning. They're already going through enough, and to equate them to stupid or ignorant that's ignorant alone.
Yeah.
And even if you think like, oh, they won't know, if you're saying it behind their back, oh, they won't know, well, what does that say about you as a person?
Yeah, that's true.
Be the person where when you're 70, 80 years old and you're looking back at your life, were you happy with who you were? Were you happy with the way you treated the people around you? Were you, like Rachel said, I really like that, were you a beacon of light, or were you hateful? Because let's be real, we all know hateful people hate themselves.
Yeah.
And deep down, there's some soul searching you gotta do, if that's who you are.
And if you're mature enough to acknowledge that that's not a nice word, but you write it off as a joke, you're mature enough to make the steps to kind of change that. Your sense of humor shouldn't be putting innocent people down. It shouldn't be making someone feel bad because they literally have a disability or they're born different, and they sometimes they don't even have the ability to defend themselves. And what does that reflect about you? If you don't think it's a big deal, it is. It's a big deal. And if you think...
We'll let you know.
Yeah. if you think, like, I'm just one person out of the 100 million people who say it, change starts...
With one person. It's a cliche, but it's so true.
No, because change starts when one person decides to better themselves. The people around them see that.
That's how trends start.
And then the people around the people that see it's a chain reaction. And if you want to do better, your friends and family will notice, they'll pick up on it, they'll do better. So don't be afraid. And don't be afraid to be that person to say, hey, don't try not to use that word. Because if the people around you aren't cool with that, they're not cool. Like, if someone's not... we just high-fived. If someone around you is saying, are you kidding? Like, are you a loser? For you standing up for neurodiverse individuals, they're the loser.
Yeah.
They're the loser, because the coolest thing you could do is stand your ground and stand your morals.
That shows that you're a confident and strong person. I think that's way cooler than conforming to what your friends think is funny.
So guys, be cool.
Be cool. We're here to tell you to be cool.
Stop using the R word. Stop using special ed shortened. Like, stop
speaking negatively in general about special needs children.
Just that sentence. Why are you speaking negatively about special needs?
It's weird to do that. That's a
so
weird thing to do.
That's so not
You're
okay.
weird for that.
Not like no diss, but this.
You're weird.
Let's be a beacon of love. Let's be a beacon of light. Let's not be afraid of things that we don't understand.
And if you don't understand, that is A-okay. There is so much knowledge online that you can look up, and we should try to post more on our Instagram as a little reminder to post a little more special needs awareness. But you can look up. There are literally probably a million websites that will explain what special needs, what neurodiverse is, what is going on, what they're feeling. Research papers, if that's too much, you can look at news articles. There's so much information. Get educated.
That, and also if you're local, you can reach out to us, because
DM us.
With words carry weight.
Us,
we are working firsthand with special needs people, if you feel like that's an area of your life that you're ignorant in and you want to grow and you want to learn, because pretending something doesn't exist isn't really like, if reach out to us, we can help you kind of break your comfort zone and stop that cycle of ignorance.
Our Instagram is words.carryweight. DM us or email us at wordscarryweight1@gmail.com.
Yeah, and join local clubs, volunteer.
Best Buddies is a club. Yeah, Best Buddies.
It's amazing to do that. And again, pretending something doesn't exist, walking past in the hallway, and then going to see your friends and saying slurs because
oh my god, guess who I just saw?
Yeah.
You're not funny.
Not funny. That's so lame.
That's weird.
So again, be cool.
Be cool.
Be kind. Be kind.
Be kind.
Because have empathy.
Words
carry weight.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, kisses.